The domestic violence bill, once enacted, will take intent, not just the alleged offense or act of abuse, into consideration. With pioneers like the island's first woman Attorney General, Lorraine Williams, in the gallery, the long-awaited domestic violence bill made it to the floor of Parliament for debate on Tuesday. The historic piece of legislation was tabled on International Women's Day 2022, signaling a major step forward in achieving gender equality to tackle domestic abuse by supporting both victims as well as bringing perpetrators to justice. Gender Affairs Minister Dr. Virginia Albert-Poyotte, during her contribution in the House, gave an overview of the provisions. Dr. Poyotte revealed that the law has expanded the scope of domestic violence.
In the past, Mr. Speaker, an act had to be committed. But now in this bill speaks to the intention of committing an act as domestic violence. The budu kaifeng is a domestic violence. Wali bufeng, the budu ngai watwaka ekbil sala. Mr. Speaker, we talk of physical abuse or threats of physical abuse. We talk of sexual abuse or threats of sexual abuse. Emotional, verbal or psychological abuse. It's not only when you beat somebody, you abuse the person. When you insult the person, when you stalk the person, you harass the person, that is abuse. Molestation, which is in the criminal code. Arbitrary deprivation of liberty or forced confinement. Economic abuse. In the situation you have money to give to the children, money to give the mother to support the children, you deny it. That is abuse.
Dr. Poyotte says while the domestic violence bill will mostly benefit women, it does not discriminate against anyone. She recognized the devastating impact domestic violence has on children and its contribution to crime.
These children witness that on a daily basis. That affects their learning. And the teachers can see it in the classroom. These children who are exposed to domestic violence, they grow and they feel is the norm, and that contributes to criminal activities in our country because they think it's okay to beat, to kill, to lie, to spy, to harass, to molest. Both of these instruments, Mr. Speaker, condemn discrimination against women in all its forms and further condemn acts of violence committed in the home and domestic relationships.
The Gender Affairs Minister also stated that far too many women have perished at the hands of intimate partners. She says the time to act is now.
An average of 3 per year. Some of these women have been living in violent relationships for several years before the fatal incident. There are sometimes claims that the reports were made before it came to that, but nothing was done to protect the victim. We cannot wait and say RIP. We cannot wait and say condolences. We cannot wait and say sorry. We have to prevent it. Mr. Speaker, this is unacceptable.
Minister Poyotte commended the pioneers of the women's movement and those who have pushed for the bill over the last decade. She heralded the tabling of the domestic violence bill on an occasion which celebrates women, saying it speaks to the government's appreciation and recognition of women's contribution to society. Gino Filippi, HTS News Force.